Hey friends, I'm Amanda from the Inky Panda, and today we're going to be talking about the Copperplate basic strokes. This is the last video in a 3-part series in which I go through each individual basic stroke and give you my own personal tips and tricks on how I execute each one. In this video, we're going to be talking about the ascending loop and the descending loop. So make sure you have your favorite calligraphy supplies, and let's get started. The next stroke that we're going to talk about is the ascending loop. As you can see, this stroke is entirely above the baseline, and it's 3x heights tall. You begin at the header line. This part of the stroke is similar to an entry-exit stroke, so you kind of swoop upwards in a slightly curved fashion until you reach the first ascending line. From here, you're going to continue a little bit straighter, and about halfway between the first and second ascending line, you're going to start to turn and make your arch or your loop. The top or the apex of your loop should be the portion that touches the second ascending line, and it's entirely hairline until, again, you reach the 55-degree slant, where you begin to apply your pressure till you finish on the baseline with a squared bottom. Now, this loop, it helps me to imagine that an oval sits in between here. So it would be roughly this big. That gives me the sizing for this loop, as again, it should be consistent to the oval, which is the keystroke of this script. It also helps me maintain this curve. Sometimes if I'm not careful, I'll end up a little too pointy and I'll end up coming straight down a little too quickly, and it kind of looks like a bit of a knife point at the top here. Instead, by remembering the oval, it helps me to keep this nice and round and curved. When you begin to apply pressure once you reach the 55-degree slant, the point that you begin to apply the pressure needs to remain consistent as you continue to write many loops through your script. So if you wrote them side by side, for example, they should all begin at the same point. Here, I typically do it about halfway. Some people like to do it a little higher, some people like to do it a little bit lower. Doesn't matter so long as you remain consistent through your script. So let's go through these and we'll practice a couple together. Beginning at the header line, swooping upwards, curve, apply pressure on the 55-degree slant, and release squared bottom. Remember, don't be afraid to touch it up if you've missed it or if you feel like you're not quite square. That's totally okay. The last stroke that we're going to talk about is the descending loop. Similar to a couple of strokes that we talked about earlier, the under and the overturn, the descending loop is a mirror image of the ascending loop. If you want to check your consistency as you're practicing, you can flip your page upside down and you should see one or the other. It's a good way to check your work. This stroke begins at the header line, proceeds downwards 3x heights all the way and ends at the descending line, coming back up to the baseline. You begin this with a squared top, apply pressure, maintain the slant, coming down to about halfway to maybe a third towards the second descending line. Similar to the ascending loop, you need to remain consistent on the taper between the pressure area and the no pressure area so that it finishes, the shade finishes right at the same point. All your descending loops should be consistent. And conversely, these loops should be consistent with your ascending stem loop. So if your ascending stem loop starts a half to a third of space from the top of the loop. Same situation with your descending loop. It should end half to a third of the way to the base of your loop. Remain curved and hairline as you go through the base of this curve here. Again, it helps to remember that oval that sits right in here to make sure that this is nice and curved and it doesn't end up kind of sharp or pointed. Continue this back up in a smooth flowing curve until you reach the baseline. So let's go through this one a couple times together. Start with the squared top, come down, pressure, consistent, back up to the top. Squared top, consistent pressure, don't forget to taper. And last one. Thanks for visiting my studio today. Leave me a message in the comments below about any other future topics you'd like me to cover. Don't forget to check out the other videos in this series, which review other basic strokes that we didn't talk about in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, friends.